Welcome to the Archetype Podcast, where we explore ideas that shape the human experience. I'm Alex Redondo, and in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the Anthology of UX. It's based off a keynote presentation I did back in 2018 at the UX Dev Summit. Basically, Anthology covers three facets of the UX world: dark patterns, hidden truths, and the event horizon. This talk was made for those of us that are within the UX field, but I believe it can lend a lot of great insight to leaders that are in similar roles that are shaping products and services themselves, or have a hand in doing so. Now, fair warning, if you're easily triggered by truth, I'd recommend skipping out on this one, but please do keep listening if you have a growth mindset, because this is all about growth. I'm going to be sharing my screen. For those of you that are listening in, don't worry, I'm going to be highly descriptive, but if you do have a chance, go ahead and check out the video. I highly recommend it. Having visual aids is always a big plus in regards to understanding the narrative and also value of what we're doing right now. Okay, here we are. Now, I'd like to preface this by saying that everything about our world evolves. Innovation gives rise to new systems. And something we all need to understand is that in order for a system to properly evolve and thrive, it needs to be aware of itself. It needs to be aware of its surroundings. And what I mean by that is that we need to understand what lies in the dark. We have to look into anything hidden from view, and we need to explore and understand what the future can bring for that particular system. And I'm referring to, obviously, the UX world, because in doing so, we reveal a few things along the way. And that's pretty much what Anthology of UX is aiming to achieve. It's trying to tease out these truths that we need to start talking about so that we can evolve from this particular state within the system. Now, if you ever made a purchase online or just participated in something that made you think, wait a second, how did that happen? You probably had the displeasure of dark patterns. These design tactics that manipulate the user to take the path they didn't typically intend to take, but rather what was intended for them. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the saying where, if you don't have a plan, someone else will have a plan for you. This is pretty much what that is. These are crafted experiences designed for the purpose of rapid growth and profit above all else. And typically these dark patterns have some type of deception, misdirection, or even exploitation of users. Now, here's the thing. Is it ethical, right? Now, I'd love to play the devil's advocate and give rise to having a fantastic conversation. But to be honest, I'd say no. I think that, we shouldn't deceive. We shouldn't misdirect, and we certainly shouldn't exploit people. Now, if you ask me, should we use behavior or psychology to help people attain, better results when engaging within an experience? I am 100% on board. I think that we should implement a lot of different understandings from multiple disciplines into creating a more holistic type of approach for experiences. But I digress. The point here is to understand that there are dark patterns being deployed that get people to do certain things. And I'm going to share a couple of cool examples here of some very common dark patterns that I'm sure that either you have run into one or all of them. I certainly have had my share of running into these different types of patterns and then some. So let's go ahead and dive into checking out a few of these dark UX patterns. The first one that we start with is called roadblocks. Now, here's one from YouTube. It's on a mobile device, and these are pop-up ads that cover the entire screen. Normally, these types of tactics will completely block you from the actual content until you take some type of action. Now, if you understand flows and a person is trying to get from accomplishing one task to then getting into another task, when you push something right in front of their face, it is highly intrusive and disruptive to that flow. So there is something that even Google talks about this, which is the understanding of points of friction within a user flow. And this is definitely a point of friction. Now, I can say that it's debatable. You're trying to give them, more value by letting them know that this option, this get live TV option, is something that they should perhaps know of. But at the same time, just focus in real quick on how the layout is designed. Okay. And for those of you that are listening, and check this out. Essentially, there's 2 call to actions. They're placed at a fantastic area. It's all the way at the bottom, so it's accessible to your thumb. But the 2 call to actions are as follows. One is try it now, and the second one is no thanks. Now here's a kicker. Try it now is in a blue button, a nice blue, trust me, secure button color. But the no thanks is in plain black. It's not an active link. And for the novice user, they may or may not, but most likely see this as the only option being try it now. And guess what they're going to probably do? They're going to tap on try it now instead of hitting the no thank you. But I'm going to tell you, this is extremely effective. Is it something we should do? Is it the best way to get the point across that, there's a feature that they might not be fully taking advantage of? That's something to be debated about. Certainly there are many other ways to get them to be aware of new features. This may not be one of them, right? But even if you use this type of tactic, you shouldn't roadblock them and then trick them into trying something with that second button like that. That is bad taste, right? Or at least to me, it leaves a bad taste. And I think that we shouldn't be doing that. Here's another one. This one's called covert color palettes. Now, what we're looking on the screen is that we're seeing the footer of an email, and the footer is a big block of text. Now, typically, if you like misdirection, then this particular type of UX pattern is one that you're going to love, right? It's normally used for hiding actionable items in plain sight. Most commonly seen in emails when you're looking for that sneaky unsubscribe link and suddenly it's not that apparent because the colors are masking the action that you can take. For this one in particular, I want you to focus in on what are the call to actions or the active links on this block of text. And OfficeDepot.com within that huge block of text is colored in blue. Why didn't they use that same blue for the bottom, where the unsubscribe link, the manage preferences link, and the privacy policy link? Now, I'm sure that somebody's going to say, Alex, look, this is a company policy. We don't necessarily have to abide by what colors to use, when to use it for what. Okay. We are being compliant. We're, giving you the opportunity to unsubscribe directly from the footer of that email. We're also giving you managed preferences, but that's not the point. It's not the point whether that's, internal practices. It's how easy is this to scan? And does this fall within hiding certain actions that I can take that would benefit me as a user? And I'd say, yeah, because let's say that the person is of older age. They are in their, 80s, and they're looking for an unsubscribe. That's the action they want to take, to unsubscribe to Office Depot because they're done with their emails. For some reason, it's their call, right? And suddenly they go down here and they get confused. They don't know where to go. And what pops up most is OfficeDepot.com and OfficeDepot.com/rewards because they're colored in blue. And guess what? They're going to probably click on that, go to the site, and continue looking for an unsubscribe. That to me sounds like a very poor way of using their time, right? So at the end of the day, I think that covert color palettes, I feel that there may be a time and place for them, right? Let's not write them off completely, but when they're used in this way, they become dark. Now let's move forward. I have a lot of fun when I find these out in the wild. These are called confirm shaming. And this particular one is by Gmail. And it's funny because the tactic is very, very witty, but at the same time, it's playing with emotion to kind of guilt trip you into opting in. And let me just describe it to you. So we're looking at a prompt, and the prompt is triggered when you're switching over to the latest version of Gmail on your phone. And it's asking you, hey, the official Gmail app brings smarter, faster, and safer email to your phone. We'll text you a download link to your phone so you could basically update. But you have two call to actions. One is, I don't want smarter email. In plain blue, yes, it seems active, fantastic. They did really good there. And then the second one is in a nice, good size button in blue, same blue. It says, yes, I want it. Okay. So when you're looking at this, do you actually feel like clicking on I don't want smarter email, or do you feel like, yes, I want it? Now this one is on the spectrum of nicer when it comes to confirm shaming, but nonetheless, it is confirm shaming. And you could be as witty as you want. If you're playing with emotions, you have to be careful not to induce some type of self-doubt or negative emotion. You know, when you're working with something like this, you have to understand when you're trying to induce some type of emotion, because you're going to have to induce emotions. You know, if you're producing some type of awesome thing for Disney, right? You want it to be absolutely immersed in positive emotions of dreamlike, giddy, and inspiration, right? Where anybody can be what they want to be, and you know, you could slay monsters and you can become whoever you want to become within the story. It's fantastic. That's beautiful. But you're going to end up having to, you know, use emotions. Here, what you need to really be careful with is in creating negative emotions that then are utilized to trigger an action that they probably didn't intend to take. So that's the takeaway from this. Confirm shaming, although it's borderline, depending on the message itself, the idea is that if you use negative emotion to push the person into action, that might be probably dark UX pattern. Now, forced continuity is a very popular one among subscription-based platforms. It's super easy to open an account and add your credit card for that free trial. But wait a second. Most of these subscription-based services won't actually tell you that the trial is almost up. Best practices when it comes to free trials and whatnot is to kind of give a heads up to the individual to ask, hey, did you enjoy? Are you going to continue? You know, do you want to commit? But I wouldn't say that everyone wants that, just because when you're running a business, you want to pretty much increase revenue as much as possible. And that if that is, you know, charging for the upcoming cycle 24 hours prior to the end of that free trial, companies may do that. And is that fair? Again, it's social norms, and, you know, we have to decide what is it that is fair here. And it's one of the reasons why we're having this talk. But, you know, forced continuity is a very popular dark pattern that we tend to see within the industry. This one's pretty interesting. I'm pretty sure that some of you have seen it. This one is by GoDaddy. The thought with inertia shopping is to try to position your shopping experience so you automatically add more stuff to your cart. And by the way, we'll have everything pre-selected for you as well. And typically by having everything pre-selected, we'll also slash some prices. So it's kind of like we're going to add different layers of why you should take this offer, but we're also going to automatically pre-select it for you because it's highly recommended. And this is what inertia shopping is. You go on to a particular site, you're going to buy, you have in mind to buy one thing, and you leave with like, I don't know, 20 odd other things. And although you may be trying to help the user out by saying, hey, typically when you buy something like this, you also buy it in a bundle in this fashion. And you're trying to recommend, best way to bundle purchases, probably trying to preempt their follow-up purchases by just saying, hey, make it easy on yourself and go ahead and purchase everything right now. But it's an exploitation that you're applying. It's an exploitation that's happening. And we don't need to exploit each other more than what's already happening, right? If anything, I think we need to educate and perhaps say, hey, these are the best recommended options for whatever you're purchasing, but don't do it within the same shopping cart. Do it like after, perhaps with a follow-up email or some sort. If I were designing the experience, I would go as far as maybe trying to educate them with progressive type of experience where I'm teaching them as they're going through the shopping experience so that they understand that, hey, these things are typically bought together and you might save yourself some headaches if you do buy them together, and provide the user with the option of saying, yeah, I want to buy it together because if I hadn't known this, I wouldn't have bought it together. That I think is a healthier way of doing this rather than just, hey, at cart, I'm just going to add a whole bunch of stuff. I'm pre-selected and I'm going to slash some prices so that you don't have time to get into this and just make that purchase. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of feedback from this particular one, but it's called inertia shopping for a reason, right? It is a dark practice. The most influential dark patterns has to do with the concept or the principle of scarcity. Now, I adore scarcity because it motivates individuals, but it has to be done right. Now, this is an example by Booking.com, where Booking.com pretty much has all of it when it comes to scarcity tactics. You got to hurry. There's 23 people looking at this, 18 people booked that. There's only 5 left, so on and so forth. Tons of red labels everywhere, tons of call to actions. It is a powerhouse of you're going to miss out. You got to FOMO in and you got to make your purchase right now, not a minute from now. You have to do it right now because there are 14 people looking at this and it's the last one. That is not a proper use of scarcity. It's more of a intimidation type of tactic, and we shouldn't do that. Moving on. This is Amazon with the infamous TrembleNet, also known as roach motels. These particular flow systems are designed to make it very easy for you to get in, but very hard for you to get out. Let me give you an example. If you're looking to close your account, and mind you, this was back in 2018, be prepared to spend a few hours on the site or even going to Google to search how to close your account. It's not where you think it would be. You would say, okay, well, I'm going to close my account. I'm going to go to my account settings. No. Here's a very simple visual that shows how easy it is to find yourself using dark patterns, right? And for those that are listening in, basically it's a spectrum. We have on the left side of the spectrum is the honesty marker, which equals to better visibility and sides extensively with user needs, right? While on the right, on the far right, is the dishonesty marker, which equals to items being hidden or being less informative. So it's a less informative type of approach. And typically that sides extensively with business needs. So for anyone out there that has been in the industry for more than, 6 months, or in their study at a place where they're right now learning about how to balance user needs and business needs, you can make a lot of profit just pushing towards business needs and accounting for 10% user needs, right? It's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be profitable. But generally speaking, when you prioritize users' best interest over the business, then the business starts to hurt. Same goes for when you prioritize business needs over user needs, users start to hurt. So there's this balance zone that you really need to account for, that we should all be operating in. But typically most businesses start over closer to the right of the spectrum. And it's not because they're evil. It's just because it's natural to approach a market, especially if you're just starting out, from a standpoint of self-preservation as you progress and learn about your target audience more intimately. Essentially, if you find yourself using tactics, or if you find your organization using dark tactics, don't believe that they're evil. Take it as an indication that perhaps they're misguided, or take it as an indication that they need someone to step up and help them balance things out. Now, I am going to be honest with you. There are some companies that they're completely happy with the results, and they see it as nothing's broken, so please don't fix it, especially if they're banking on it. But the reason why we're in this is because we're supposed to guide them. We're supposed to guide business. Here's an amazing quote by Hoa Loranger from the Nielsen Norman Group. It basically states that any short-term gains a company gets from a dark pattern are lost in the long term. I couldn't agree more. You can set yourself up to use all of these dark patterns and then some. But the rise will not be worth it. You will burn. Think about it like this. It's like telling one of your best friends a blatant lie, and they know it's a lie, but they go along with it anyway, thinking that perhaps you're not lying. And then they come to the realization that, hey, this person was lying in a very nasty way. Now, in that scenario, will you trust them ever again in the future? I don't think so. So when it comes to tactics, try to bring your UX patterns into the light. Don't use dark patterns. Don't try to exploit. As much as I'd like to believe this, I don't believe that it will stop some companies. And I have to admit that dark patterns do work. They're extremely lucrative. Otherwise, people wouldn't use them to begin with. But here's the interesting part. If you ask yourself what drives these patterns, well, some of the same mechanics used for great UX can also be used for dark UX. It's just the other side of the coin. You can use information, psychology, human behavior, emotions. You get into perceived value. You use certain influential tactics such as scarcity and commitment, social validation, and the list goes on and on. And it's way more than what I could list here. But to avoid falling victim to dark patterns ourselves, we need to be aware of how an app is moving you along the path, along the user journey. If you feel confused, frustrated, pressured, or just have mixed emotions about what you're doing, take a step back. Try to reorient yourself. Now, here's the thing. Is UX broken? No. I think that these dark UX patterns are simply symptoms. The examples that I just went through are the tip of the iceberg. Trust me, it can get much darker than what we just saw. These were just borderline. But it's important to keep in mind that these serve to show that there's something fundamentally shifting beneath our feet within the UX industry. And it's not in practice, but I believe it's in approach. So in other words, we can say that dark UX patterns are the underlying symptoms of something that needs attention. And that leads me into hidden truths. Now, by hidden truths, I mean that there are many things that aren't properly addressed or hidden or fall between the cracks about the understanding of UX. There's these misunderstandings and myths that really get to me. So I'd love to clear up the top 5, at the very least, UX myths, because this will help us build the narrative. And I love clarifying them whenever I get a chance. Now, I'm sure that some of you have heard of one of these before, but let's go ahead and take a look. The first one is that UX is asking people what they want. Not really. Not really. Asking questions is definitely part of the process. But generally speaking, users don't know what they want until they see it. They themselves are unaware of how to intentionally use the product or system. And that's because there are many things to take into account, and even methods of approach to help surface what users truly need, rather than what they think they want. So it's up to us to properly benchmark common UX factors and provide a course of action to validate any of these new features. There's too many things happening for them to study and understand what would be the best course of action or the best solution for a particular field or another, right? So that's the first UX myth. Now, the second one that I've heard quite often is that a beautiful design is good UX. I'll admit it, beautiful design can be a great starting point, hands down, but it's not good UX. It's not great UX. It's probably not bad UX, but again, UX is not just because it's pretty, it's going to be useful, okay, or usable. The success of a product or system relies on testing for optimal performance. Let me just repeat that one more time. The success of a product or system relies on testing for optimal performance. So auditing common UX issues and listing key functions is a better start. Listen, I love the design phase, but inspiration should be informed, right? You need to make sure that you're championing the right solution that actually provides value to the user by testing it with them, right? But you test it. That's going to inform your design, and it's going to breathe new life and opportunity to what you can do and what you shouldn't do. The third one here is jaw-dropping whenever I hear it. It's UX testing needs to be done at the end. That's just insane. I've personally have heard this one come out of the mouths of people on projects I've been on, and I couldn't disagree more. It's actually the opposite of being productive. Leaving the testing only until the very end would most likely end up costing you way more than if you actually put in the effort and tested often and frequently. This could potentially, by testing only at the end, it could potentially set you back to the drawing board. Or worse yet, you'll probably have to trash the entire work done altogether. Again, that's just insane. So if you ever hear someone say that, tell them that they may be going to cost the company a lot of money. Okay? The best course of action is to test often and frequently. And you want to test every step of the way if possible. I know I'm exaggerating. I know it. I know. Trust me. I'm trying to drive an important point here. And that is that if you have a sketch, you could test it. If you have wires, you could test it. If you have a prototype, go ahead and test it. If it's launched and people are actually using it, test it. When you test it, you open up dialogue. And that dialogue will indicate whether it is being received positively or negatively, and will help you guide that product to become optimal. So again, test, test, test. The fourth one here is UX design is only a step in the product lifecycle. UX is an integral part of the entire work, from beginning to end. You don't sprinkle UX on a product and call it done. UX is constantly in discovery mode, and it's always looking for the evolving needs of the users. It's always reevaluating the objectives. It's testing and overall modeling a successful experience along the way to the final product. And still, UX is constantly applied to keep the product evolving in a competitive market. So no, it's not a step. You have a product, you have the experience. The product is the experience. The experience is the product. I've preached this before. Companies aren't selling products anymore, and they're not selling services anymore. And I'm talking to the individuals that know what's coming. Experience sell. Experience is your product. Experience is your service. Make this your main objective, and this will be sold. The last one on here, which is just, it's ballsy. It's actually really ballsy. UX is a universal process, and it's a one-size-fits-all. No product or system is created equal. Well, some are. But for the majority, each product has a unique signature to how UX practices are applied to optimize it for success. Typically, the best products change throughout time, and the UX practices applied also evolve with it. Period. You can't say that a real estate application and the bundled features it's offering to a particular target demographic is the same as a daily news application. So why would you think to run the same exact process? So no, one size doesn't fit all. You need to evaluate your product. You need to evaluate your processes. You need to make sure that your processes are optimizing at the same time, or that your processes are evolving to actually cater to your particular product or service. Now that we've cleared some of these myths, I feel so much better. So let's dive a little deeper. I absolutely love this concept of hone and tatame. These are Japanese concepts that ring true to a lot that I've seen. And hone means what a person truly believes, the behavior and opinions which are often kept hidden and only displayed with one's closest confidants. And tatame is what a person pretends to believe, the behavior and opinions one must display to satisfy society's demands. So hone is the truth. It's the underlining truth. It's what is actually happening and the feelings that you have, the opinions and the behaviors that you have that reflect the truth. And tatame is what a person pretends to believe. It is, I am going to act this particular way because it's what it's expected of me, rather than showing my true understandings or the true feelings or behaviors or opinions. This is extremely powerful. This is why sometimes we can't clearly tell when systems require real change, unless we're actively seeking it out and to radically, improve it. But otherwise, we go on pretending. And we pretend that everything is fine. When in actuality, is that the reality of UX can be harsh and overwhelming at times. If anyone tells you there's a perfect system, they're probably lying. What you need are tactics and insights to strengthen a system. That's how things get improved, is by systematically getting in there and swapping things out and making things better with proven tactics. Now, here I like to pause for a second, because typically when I say that reality of UX can be harsh, I mean that sometimes it's not taken seriously at work, right? At your organization. It's underrated, it's surrounded by ignorance, has no real voice, or it's badly represented. There's no measurable ROI actually being applied. anywhere. There's probably some type of bad leadership happening. There are divided views on UX, how it should be used, when to use it, etc. There's probably some type of lack of clarity or even time. It's probably more time than clarity. And last but not least, it's probably that you're working in a broken or pre-existing process that prevents proper UX. Now, you could not have a process and that hinders the actual application of UX, right? So it's not an organization adopted process. So you might have a process, but it's not part of what the organization deems being part of the process. Or there could be a pre-existing process that is just preventing you from properly applying UX. They might say, no, go ahead and apply usability testing at the end of the project. It's part of our process. It's going to hinder you, right? And this brings me to this very intriguing point that UX is mostly not used to its true capacity. And when I say this, please understand that I mean it in this context. UX is like Kung Fu. The more you learn and practice, the more proficient and stronger your UX Kung Fu becomes. Okay? So if we see it in this term, where it's about mastery, then we should be asking, how strong is your UX Kung Fu? Because like any serious field, your commitment level and mastery counts in UX. But more so, it's the culture where it's being practiced that is highly important. Imagine a dojo where everyone loves martial arts and encourages each other to grow and become a master, versus a dojo that lacks passion for the art. Which one will thrive? Which one do you think will thrive? I think I can guess right. And I'm pretty sure you can too. Now, this is where it gets a little bit uncomfortable for some of us. My previous statistics for this slide were outdated. Obviously, I built this in 2018. So I had to go ahead and update it with the results on UX maturity stages with organizations from a self-assessment survey based on 5,371 UX professionals conducted by Nielsen Norman Group back in June 2021. All right. Now here, this is awesome because it lays it out. I used to have 4 areas, but this one lays out the maturity of stages in 6 stages. So it's 1 through 6. The higher you are, the more sophisticated, the more awesome your Kung Fu is, right? So stage 1 is absent UX. From the survey responses, 1%. Now that's awesome. I love that. That is just, wow. That's cool. That means that not a lot of UX professionals are in organizations that are within the absent stage. Stage 2 is limited UX, right? You know, there are some things that they're doing, right? They're trying it out. That's 17%. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Then the following stage is stage 3, and that's called emergent UX. That's 49%. 49%, basically 50% of respondents said that's where they are. 50% of 5,371 UX professionals are saying, hey, this is where I am. I'm an emergent UX. Now there are 3 stages. There are 3 stages beyond this point. 50% are saying that they're emergent UX. They're on the stage of emergent UX for maturity stages. Let me pause here and say that this is where you have to breathe. You have to take a breath in and just take this in for a second. UX, just in case I probably didn't explain, the maturity of UX within an organization reflects how well they are using UX. In other words, if we go back a couple slides, okay, it's exactly what I'm saying is that UX is mostly not used to its true capacity. Now let's keep going and take a look at stage 4. Stage 4 is structured UX. Structured UX is that there are processes in place. There are actual processes. Emergent is that, hey, we're trying to put together these processes. Okay, we're a little sloppy. We're still learning. Okay, but we're trying to get there. 28% of respondents said, hey, we have some structured UX. If we're going to start a project, we have a process in place that typically go to and helps us produce really good results or decent results. Okay. That's 28% of respondents. And then there's a huge drop off. Huge drop off. The following stage is stage 5, and that's called integrated UX. Integrated UX pretty much means that they've infiltrated multiple departments, and now people within these departments, or at least the leads, know that UX is important to integrate it as part of our process. It's not just structured, it's now integrated. And that's 4%. 4% of respondents. Wow. And if you want to know what stage 6 is, that's 0.04. That's less than 1%. Okay. It's a fraction. 0.04%. 0.04% is stage 6. And that is the last stage that we're accounting for in this chart. And that's user-driven UX. That is that we listen to the customer and intimately know them and understand them. And we bring that knowledge into our products to develop truly immersive and resonating products or services. At that level, everything you do will sell. And it's only 0.04%. So when I look at this chart, I see, at least for me, there's one thing. Clarity is missing. Because you don't have to convince me of the importance of user experience, of just designing an experience and taking into account the individual that's actually going to be part of the experience. I see it as hands down, you need to do it because that's the future, right? And not even, that's happening now. If you would have done this 10 years ago, you've been number 1. You've done this 20 years ago, you've been past everyone else. Look at Amazon. Amazon, they said we're customer driven. Bezos, there's a video out there. You can actually find it if you go to YouTube, where he just talks about customer. It's all about the customer. And look at that business. Yes, I know there are some aspects of it that not so good. That's fine. Everybody has their opinions, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that they kept on saying that they were customer driven, and look at where that company is right now. Okay. So this should speak volumes of the state that we are in right now. Now here is another amazing chart. Love this chart. I actually recreated it based off of one that I found. I think it was called Corporate UX Maturity Stages by Jacob Nielsen. This is really nice. And the reason why this is nice, or why I find this so helpful, is because for those of you listening in, it's pretty much broken up into columns. And then those columns are broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. Okay. So each of these columns, the first one says novice UX, second one is beginner, third is intermediate, fourth is advanced, and then fifth one is sophisticated UX. And then on the side, it's attitude, research, strategy, design, testing, or culture. And then it indicates whether they use it, they don't use it, how much they use it, etc. Now, check this out. Novice. The attitude of a novice culture is the following. Here's a quote. We don't have time or money for that. That is spot on. Because when you don't know the value of UX, you're not going to understand that if you put $1, you'll probably get back $100. And I'm exaggerating again, but it's pretty darn close, right? That's novice. Research, X, there's no research. Strategy, no strategy. What is strategy? No, we just push pixels. Design, ad hoc. There's no rhyme or reason. There is just taste, okay? My preference is red buttons. We're going to do red buttons. 2 weeks from now, I'm probably going to change the red button to have orange type hue to it or something like that. I don't know, whatever, right? Ad hoc. I'm going to do it because I need to do it. We got to push something out. Testing, never. What is testing? Why would we test it? It's a waste of time, right? And then 6, culture. There's no culture, no knowledge. That right there, it says no knowledge for culture. Nobody's spreading the word around the organization to get other people to understand the value, the importance of having a strong UX culture. So that's column 1, novice UX. I think that's pretty spot on. If you don't think so, or if you think something else should be added on there, please go ahead and comment down below and let's talk about this. I'd love to talk about it. Beginner UX, second column. First one, which is attitude, it's just do it. That's the quote. Just do it. Just get this damn thing done. Although it may have some negative connotations attached to it, look, don't talk to me about problems. Talk to me about solutions. That's the type of person I am. So just do it. I see it as opportunity. And for research on that column, it says ad hoc and anecdotal. Hey, at the very least, there's something happening to actually take some precautions, some steps by doing some type of research, right? Strategy. Reactive. Okay. I am big on proactiveness, but if you can only be reactive instead of not having any strategy, you're going to have to spend more resources. So reactive isn't the best or most constructive way of spending your time. But hey, if you're a highly creative person, you are going to just crush it when you're in this particular column and you're doing strategy and you're being reactive. That's good on you. Design, creative chaos. Not ad hoc. It's creative chaos. That means that you have some type of style guides. It's not like you have a separate file. So you go back to a previous file and you pull those buttons and you pull those elements, manifesting solutions design-wise in a creative, chaotic fashion. That merits a lot of respect. Okay, right? So testing. Rarely do they test. At least some testing, but rarely. It just hurts me. There should be more testing in the beginning UX. Like, think about it like this. People say you need money to test, but I disagree. I'll explain why. There's the guerrilla method, right? So you can go out and just, take a sketch, show it to your colleagues, say, how would you navigate this? Walk them through as if you're actually doing a task analysis with them. Let them explain it to you and see if it makes sense just by doing that. You don't have to test your colleagues. You can test your family members. You can test your friends. At the end of the day, it's going to enrich your life. Forget about the company for a second. It's going to enrich your life, right? You need to start. Culture, awareness of value. Okay. All right. So there's an awareness, but there's not an understanding that you can tap into it. And what is the formal way of doing that within that company or organization? So intermediate UX. The attitude here is think before you act. Okay. That's a little more strategic. That, we stop for a second and see if there's value in doing it or not. That's fantastic. So respect there. Research, it's data driven. That's good. So we're seeing if it's actually selling. We're seeing if there's actual signups happening. We're seeing if there's actual, inquiries or interest in a particular thing. Great. Okay. Strategy is focus on business requirements. right? This is what I'm saying, that it's easy to get into dark UX patterns because this is where you start. You just simply need to fulfill some type of business requirement. This is a perfect example. Let's move on. So design, best practices. I love that. That's fine. That's a good middle ground. Testing occasionally. All right, I'll take that. Culture, individual champions, traction difficult. You spread the word around. You tell people about the value. But I think that people are scared to take action on your word, even if you're showing them case studies and you're pushing your point in valid ways. No one's really going to listen to you unless you have a really high precision, right? You show that you're extremely passionate. You get someone to get on your team and then start tag teaming everybody from different angles. You're not going to get that traction. It's going to be quite difficult, but you're not alone. This has happened over and over and over. Your case is not unique and you can make great traction. And I have some cool tricks that I'll probably share on in another video to get traction at your organization. So let's go to the next column here. It's advanced UX. Here's the attitude here. Use lessons learned to predict, plan, and create opportunity. What did you learn from the last project, the last campaign, the last bulk of work? And how can we make this one better? I don't know if you've heard of the phrase, don't work hard, work smarter. This is that. You got to work smarter. Don't go through the same pains that you went through last time. Try to improve upon it. Research, qualitative and quantitative. That is nice. Now, for those of you that don't know, right? Quantitative data are measures of values or counts that are expressed as numbers, while qualitative data are measures of types and may be represented by a name, symbol, or number code. Okay. What that means is that brings in a new depth of understanding how the experience is serving its purpose. There's a lot of cool stuff to get into when it comes to qualitative and quantitative and how to balance those two to get really awesome results or understandings, actually, I would say. But let's keep going. Strategy for advanced UX. Balance needs of business and users. Beautiful. Design, style guide, systems, and process defined. Ideation and creativity. Yes. So there are processes defined to having a style guide that you can pull from, or maybe components that you can pull from. Definitely have a design system, a DSM. All right, cool. Testing sometimes. Okay, I can see that. And I can probably defend it. Think about it like this. If I've already done testing on a particular layout and I already have like the perfect formula for it and I need to push it out, I might not want to run testing on it. I know. But sometimes it's okay. And then culture for advanced UX. Okay, some managerial advocates and success. Okay, I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. That's good. That means that there is traction. So awesome. All right, let's see here. Sophisticated UX. Attitude. Review, learn, adjust, execute, review, learn, and you rinse and you repeat. I'm going to be honest with you. It feels a little more structured. If you are at the level of a fine-oiled machine, you're going to be super effective. So you're going to review, you're going to learn, you're going to adjust, you're going to execute, and that's cool. So research, triangulation. That means data and observation, passive and active. Yes. Okay, strategy. Business is customer driven. Perfect. You have to understand that customers drive businesses and you simply need to guide them. But don't get lost in just the customer. You got to bring in a little bit of that uniqueness from the business side. Let's see here. Design. Agile, lean, small teams, rapid design sessions, and iterative. Yeah, okay. It's testing. Always. Beautiful. Love it. And culture, empowered by C-level executive. Those are the businesses of the future. These right here. If UX is being empowered by C-level and have a voice at the C-level, then you're going to go a long way. I love that. So if you're taking a look at this, or if you're following along, what is the depth of your UX? Is it novice, beginner, intermediate, advanced, or sophisticated? And then something I like to bring up as well is that just because you don't have everything in beginner or you don't have everything in intermediate doesn't mean that you can't have something in advanced, right? You could probably have amazing research. You could have, I don't know, some qualitative and quantitative research, but your attitude is think before you act. And then maybe for design, you have something in, creative chaos, to say the least. So there could be some mixing and matching happening, but overall, what you want to do is understand where you are, the majority of your stance, which column is it in, and then move forward from there. Or take the things kind of behind and bring them into that column. That would be a good strategy. So overall, the idea here is the stronger you become, the more aware you should be of everything that I just talked about. Because ultimately, we are responsible for how UX is used and perceived to help others understand the importance and hold organizations accountable to growing their efforts and leveraging proper UX. Because we need to bring focus to strengthening our mastery together. And something that is extremely important to say here is that where we put our attention is where we put our energy. And nothing grows without the proper care. So with that, we move on to the event horizon. Now, mind you, I put this together like in 2018. So we're going to take a look and see how well things age, because the world will never be the same. Change is absolutely inevitable. My belief is that while we gain incredible traction in regards to our technology, that user experience will be centric to it all. It will take its place as the most important aspect of a product, a service, a system. And that is something I believe wholeheartedly, because there are nearly 7.5 billion people on the planet, and they will soon, if not all, be digitally driven and digitally influenced. We're continuously advancing beyond our current limits. So ultimately, it's going to bring us to an event horizon for UX, and one that will officially position UX at the forefront of advancements. Why, you ask? Well, because of the human element. People drive economies, and designing meaningful connections that set users on a course to accomplishing positive outcomes is a very powerful thing. Even if these connections are designed experiences made to feel natural and authentic, it still drives real change. So, why does this matter, right? Well, innovation gives rise to new enhancements for systems. And that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about our current system and how it's shifting, right? And how we can better it. And right now, we're living in an era of golden features. And these golden features are, you could see it right there. We have artificial intelligence. We have machine learning, which is a subset. We have predictive modeling and analytics. We have anticipatory and adaptive design. We have voice user interfaces. We have augmented reality, virtual reality, user recognition and identification, smarter personalization, and something that is going to blow everything out of the water, quantum computing. That is absolutely, hands down, going to revolutionize the experience field. Just watch. Now, what awaits us? What could the future hold in store for us? Considering these golden features, right? More emotional intelligence and UI feedback integrated into experiences. Now, by that, I mean that we want a more conversational feel from our interactions. So experiences that are equipped with a degree of emotional intelligence with an emphasis on AI or proactively designing feedback that's built in will enhance the user's journey by assigning meaning the more the individual interacts. In other words, we unlock a new level of dialogue between the user and the interface. Another one is that we'll be more inclined to build linear flows with progressive interactions to simplify experiences. Now, by setting linear flows, we're building with interactions that provide a narrative and milestones to the storyline to improve momentum and contextual clarity. And you go, well, to a degree, we're kind of already doing some of that. We do build somewhat linear flows, but I'm talking about more AI driven or more contextually driven linear flows. Another one is that we're going to actually see prioritizing content over Chrome and a clearer attention to visual hierarchy. Already being done. So that's awesome. Love it. I believe that we get lost with feature-rich approaches. What we should be doing is feature-focused approaches. If we do that, we are allowing users to identify prioritized points of focus and interactions much easier, which ultimately helps us drop redundancy and improves purpose dependent on device and situation. Now, this one's really cool. A stronger and more robust validation process for decisions. This one's stating that our validation methodologies will become better and further refined with AI and device agnostic measures. What this means is that validations will start to be more automated and help us identify different decision markers to help design even more cohesive and seamless experiences across multiple situations. So right now, when we test something, we test for a response, but we don't test for an automated solution or perhaps suggested solutions for that particular test. Another one is that UX will become more human and go beyond the web, beyond pixels. It's going to take advantage of all of our senses. Rather than just sight or sound in front of our screen, we will bring and standardize the use of VR, AR, and voice user interfaces to better enrich experiences by combining our senses in navigating new landscapes. And with it, new opportunities. Last but not least, UX will be comprehensive and inclusive in nature, using pattern recognition to anticipate user needs. Now, the emergence of real connections is based off of similarities of preferences among individuals, right? So this is ultimately going to produce a functional and responsive relationship where right now it's more artificial and more digital type of relationship. This one's going to bring advanced personalization and adaptive preferences to already carefully tailored experiences, which will give rise to a new level of responsiveness, a real relationship. So this is where I put this little ditty where it says, great, but wait, this is the part that's really important. And it actually really is important. So check this out. For every action, there's a reaction. Every cause is followed by an effect. Designing a single interaction produces a ripple effect, which may impact directly or indirectly the lives of millions. I've been there, and I know some of you have been there as well, where your decision to include or not include a particular element or instance within an experience causes an event in the lives of individuals. And that is, will they purchase? Will they not purchase? Will they sign up or not sign up, etc. And this is extremely powerful because we must understand that for every decision made, we are ultimately altering people's lives and changing the course of our world. Now, this is nothing new, okay? You've probably come to this conclusion already, right? Every choice we make in our daily lives makes a difference. We know this. But when you make decisions for a product that millions use, then that's when you have to be careful with the choices you make and the choices of those working with you. Now, with knowing this information, there are two main things you can do. One is absolutely panic. Okay, that's it. Call in sick, take a few days, have to think about this, see if this is the type of responsibility you want, because the weight of millions are on your shoulders. Or you lead. This is what this profession is about. It's about designing experiences. So call it what you may, but take pride in your professional field and thrive in the knowledge that you can help or even bring harm to the world around you, one interaction at a time. Because at the end of the day, you will shape the future. So you need to design responsibly, innovate, and carefully validate your ideas. You have a moral obligation to future generations to design ethically and responsibly and influence in a positive and meaningful way. I know, I'm bringing in feelings, but it's absolutely valid, okay? We need to design responsibly. We do. Because let's be honest, we are doing things that past generations did not. And those of us that don't take pride in what we're doing and really understand and become aware of what we're doing, they're just shooting darts in the dark. And that's extremely dangerous. So please be responsible, test, understand why you're doing something, where you're going with this. You have to apply strategy. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. I love helping. So if you have questions, send me an email. I will answer your email. If you have my number, send me a text. If you're on social media, DM me. I will help out wherever I can. And if anything, I'll always point you in the right direction. Because if we don't help each other out, we're not going to evolve. And there's this interesting little model that my family has. And it is, leave the place you found a little better than what you found it in. And this is the place I found. I fell into the UX world and designing experiences, and I'd love to leave it a little better. And it doesn't have to be me. But if I can help others do this, then so be it. So again, if you need help, let me know. Thanks for tuning in to this podcast. If you found this insightful, please like and share, and also subscribe, turn on the alerts. There's like this little bell thing, and catch you on the next one. Thanks.